But I think the most important thing that I learned is to be myself. I want to grow and help grow my colleagues and find their passion. Once you find that passion, then there's no holding you back. If I went from being the worst speaker you could ever imagine to, you know, having fun and showing my passion, then truly anyone can do it.
Today I have Cara Burns. She's a licensed veterinary technician and a specialist in nutrition. She also has her master's degree in physiology and counseling psychology. Cara is also the founder and past president of the Academy of Veterinary Nutrition Technicians. She teaches nutrition courses around the world. She's an independent nutritional and well-being consultant, the director of veterinary nurse development for Wellhaven Pet Health, and the editor-in-chief of Today's Veterinary Nurse. She was the 2010 NAVTA Veterinary Technician of the Year, as well as the 2011 Dr. Franklin Lau Lecturer. Cara has also been named the National Association of Professional Women, Women of the Year for 2010 to 2011. She is a very accomplished veterinary professional, and I'm excited to share her story and her wealth of wisdom. So, thank you for doing this. I loved your VMX talk so much, and I already knew you were accomplished, but just kind of seeing you up there and sharing and seeing how much your story impacted others, I really was excited to get you to share on the podcast.
Yeah.
Now, I remember you loved Maine. Is that where you grew up or where you moved to later?
I was born and raised in Massachusetts, so
Okay.
basically the first town on the Cape. And then I did my undergraduate and one of my masters at the University of Maine, and I just fell in love with Maine. So I was there up until I was relocated for Hills at the time to Kansas. So, but yeah, Maine is the most beautiful state in the nation.
It is definitely on my bucket list to visit. But back in Massachusetts, are you an only child or do you have siblings?
Okay. Yeah, I am Irish Catholic, so youngest of 6.
Okay. Good
Yeah.
size family.
Yeah. So yeah, it was I was very involved in sports, growing up. We were just involved in just about everything. And so I knew a few things. One, I wanted to be in veterinary medicine, and 2, that I wanted to continue my athletic career at a Division I school. So picked University of Maine, and that was a definitely a great decision because of Maine encompasses everything I love. Obviously the state, and they had great athletic programs, and lots and lots of snow.
Did you have a favorite sport that you played?
Yeah. I in college, I played field hockey and softball, and I don't know that many people in the Midwest know what field hockey is. It seems to be more popular on the coast, but it's basically a combination between ice hockey and soccer, but you play it on an open field, kind of like a soccer field. Yeah. So sticks, and and so that was definitely my favorite.
Very cool. So why did you, kind of moving on to the veterinary part of your journey, you said you were already knew that you were interested in the veterinary field, but I know that wasn't your first career. So what kind of happened there?
Yeah, that is a great question. I went into psychology, as you know, there was a number of different reasons. Some of them, more personal to my family, and so I thought that was the proper route for me. But having having grown up, and I think, how many veterinarians and veterinary technicians and nurses do you hear, say, I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian, or in the veterinary profession when I was 5, right?
Yep.
And so, so I knew that, but life takes you down a different path, and I thought that was the correct path for me. I worked, as you probably heard, as an emergency psychologist in an emergency counselor in an emergency department in Portland, Maine. And it was very intense, as you can imagine, working with everything from people obviously that were suicidal, depressed, first breaks they were experiencing, as in, with a diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar, as well as working with families of trauma patients. So, a patient would come in and go to the trauma room, heart attack, or I almost said hit by car because I was thinking veterinary
Once you're in the
medicine.
veterinary field, you don't
Yeah.
get out of it.
Yeah. So, heart attacks, multi-traumas, car accidents, etc. And then, my role was to work with the family while, obviously the medical team was working on the patients. So it was intense, but, but it was, yeah, it was the right thing for me at the time.
And I have this question, like, did you kind of use some of the things that you learned in
Uh,
this career as you went into the veterinary field? I can only imagine you could.
yes, yeah, absolutely, I did. If you think about how much we work with humans, even though we're working in the veterinary field, I think some of us forget that the veterinary field also involves, people. There's always someone at the end of the leash or bringing that carrier in. So, so yeah, I, I, I believe a lot of my psychological training, counseling training, has come in handy. Again, working in similar situations, I was in general practice, and then another small animal and avian practice. So the same, truly the same rules apply. It's just in a different environment. And you know, I was about to say on a different scale, but in veterinary medicine, I truly believe so many of our clients, and me as well, think of their pets as family members. So it really wasn't, a different scale. It was just a different species.
I love that you are using your experience, going forward into kind of pursuing other dreams that you had. So what was the moment that you realized, maybe this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, and that's a great question. There are it's when you're working in the field of psychology, probably no matter where you are, and this was, many years ago. It was hard because the resources just weren't there for people in desperate need. So an individual would come in, and I'd be working with them, and I needed to make sure they were safe, and get to somewhere safe, as well as get the help that they needed. So um, which we all, we worked, there was a team of us, which we all made sure happened, but the resources just weren't there. And, I'm a little apprehensive to say, they're still not there from what
Mm.
I see. You can look at our profession as one, but until we get rid of that stigma and, allow people to say truly how they feel and what they need, and then have those resources available for them, until that happens, we're not going to move the profession of psychology and the mental health profession forward. And I know that sounds like a real bummer, but having been in it long ago and now seeing it from a different angle, obviously, we still don't have the resources that we need. And so for me, it got to the point where it was hard to say, I know what you need. Can you just hang on a little bit longer? Right? When they obviously, if they're in the emergency department, they really couldn't. So so I decided at that point that I needed a change for me. And so I thought, you know what, I should just pursue what I had always wanted to do. And so I left that position, and as you can imagine, it paid a lot more than a veterinary assistant position, right? Because of, I left this position, and I wanted to see I wanted to truly experience working in a vet hospital. So, I started as a veterinary assistant, at that time, $5 an hour.
Wow.
I know it makes it sound like I'm, 180, but, but, times were different. And, um, and so I did fall in love, as I had thought that I might, and with the profession, and decided, yep, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to pursue. And so I studied. I sat for the Vet Tech National Exam. I passed that, and in the state of Maine, I became a licensed veterinary technician. So, and the criticism that goes along with that, right? It's like, how could you leave this great paying job? Or, what are you, crazy? You have, a master's in physiology and in counseling psychology, and you're going back to be, at the time, a veterinary assistant, or a veterinary nurse or technician. And it's like, yes, but I have to do what I think is best for me. And hopefully that message gets across to your listeners. People will criticize. Everyone has plenty to say about everything, right? We see that now with social media. It's like, let's, hold on, time out. Let people do what they think is best for themselves. And obviously this was the right decision. I say that from my standpoint, because of, I've been blessed and able to accomplish a decent amount in my career, as a veterinary technician or veterinary nurse, especially since I fell in love with nutrition, as most everyone knows. And so yeah, so it was absolutely the right thing for me. It was tough decision, from the out from the outside looking in, having people, tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. From that point, it was difficult, but it wasn't a difficult decision, really the minute I stepped into the clinic. And having had as many animals as I've always had, I knew it was the right thing anyway.
Can I ask you what kind of kept you going and kept you strong during that period? Did you ask yourself
Mm.
certain questions? Did you have a certain individual that kind of encouraged you? What was it?
That's a great question. You mean when I was starting as a vet assistant?
Right.
Or
When
yeah.
you were having to hear a lot of people tell you, are you crazy? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What kind of kept you focused?
That's a great question. I did have support. There were people in my life that supported me. My family, obviously was a big one. They knew, what I had wanted to pursue. And so my family was very supportive. And I also, as cheesy as it sounds, um, and as scary as that was to make a big life change, I didn't want to have regrets. So I knew that for me, emotionally, physically, whatever, because emotions obviously have a take a huge toll and play a big role in your um, on your physical well-being as well. I I couldn't stay where I was, in that role as an emergency psychologist, um, and so I knew that I had to make a change, and I didn't want to regret not ever having tried or stepped into veterinary medicine. So, I think that was the big thing for me. Um, I did have support of my family, as I said. My parents were my parents were very proud of what I was doing, but then they were also just as proud once I, stepped into this role, and just being who I am, I wanted to do more, obviously, which is why I went from a veterinary assistant to a veterinary technician, a licensed veterinary technician, and then, I'm sure we'll get to the rest. But you know, having the support, having a very supportive family, and not wanting to live with regrets is a pretty strong motivator.
Yes, I'm glad you had that support for sure. And you have a lot of people who are glad you got into the veterinary field. So, what happened? You got your license for a veterinary technician. What happened next?
I worked for in Maine a couple of different small animal hospitals. And one was, as I mentioned, a small animal and avian. We saw some exotics, but the first patient that came in that I talked to about nutrition, and I saw the change in that patient, as you know, Dr. Sprinkle, I was hooked. Right? I was just like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Um,
Can
you
you
know,
tell us more about that patient just to kind of understand the story?
yeah. Actually, believe it or not, it was an overweight patient that, I know, hard to believe, that came in, and, the veterinarian was very supportive of me working like it with nurse consults, and having this nutrition discussion. And I was, researching nutrition left and right. And so we started the patient on um, obviously a therapeutic diet to try to get the weight off, but it was more working with not only the patient, but the owner, and getting them to see the importance, right? Talking about those risk factors and getting the weight off of that dog. Slowly but surely we got the weight off, and that dog was was already limping a little bit, so we know he was at risk for further osteoarthritis, and potentially diabetes, and all that comes along with that. And after a 6-month period, we had gotten down to where we thought that dog should be, and the dog was back to running and playing, didn't have that limp and or the lameness. And so, I'm like, wow. And at the same time, I had some kidney patients that I was working with, and um obviously with my veterinarian as well. And just seeing the changes in each one of these patients. The weight management patient was the big one, and then I had a German Shepherd at the time. Most of everyone in the veterinary world will be shocked at that, because I actually had a dog with a nose, because now I have all brachycephalics, except for Breeze. um, but I had a German Shepherd who was going to be put down because it had subaortic stenosis, and the breeder's like, well, I can't do anything. And so I took that dog, and from a puppy, and again, through nutrition and obviously wonderful veterinary management, Zane lived to be 11 years old. And
Oh,
so, yeah, so seeing all of this, coming together, I knew that nutrition was the end all be all. And I haven't stopped talking about it since. I drive some people crazy, I'm sure, but hey, nutrition is the cornerstone of good medicine, right? So I know,
You don't
preaching to
have to
the
convince me.
yeah, I know. So yeah, so from there, I just wanted to talk nutrition, veterinary nutrition, with everyone that came in. And it's interesting because of throughout my career, and I'm sure throughout yours, you've gotten pushback as, oh, nutrition isn't that big a deal, and you don't you don't build revenue on. None of that is true. Again, I had a very supportive veterinarian, and together we made nutrition a priority, and that priority was able to bring in revenue. So we were able to put that back into the hospital and get, some of the toys that at the time, remember this was a little bit ago, were big, right? We an endoscopy, or an endoscope. We were working towards getting, because I also like dentistry, and so we were getting dental x-ray machine. And so all of that while providing proper veterinary care to animals through nutrition. So that's just a little plug for revenue is okay, everyone. We
It is
need
important.
to, yes, it is important. And you can put that back into your hospital.
So you got this passion working in clinic, and it sounds like you were ready to tell the world a little bit more about how wonderful nutrition was. So what was kind of that in between of working in clinic to where you are now?
Um, Another great question. So back to my journey. I think we've all established how much I love the state of Maine and New England in general. Um, and so I was offered an opportunity, which seemed like the job of a lifetime for me as a veterinary nutrition technician, with Hill's Pet Nutrition. And so, but that meant I had to leave Maine and go to the Midwest. Topeka, Kansas is where they are located. And, talk about another big decision, right? So my siblings and, my parents were in Massachusetts or New England, at least most of them. Not all of them, but, and then I, I knew I had to do it because I was going to be able to talk to my colleagues throughout the profession
Mhm.
about nutrition. And I'm like, I have to do this, right? And so, I think you probably heard that I was driving, from Maine to Kansas, and I had cockatiels at the time who were, so I loaded everything into my car, my animals, that is. And, so I had Fluff and Nutter, my cockatiels that were, singing jingle bells the entire way, across the country. And but I'm like, why am I leaving the great state of Maine for Topeka, Kansas? And you heard that I'm Irish Catholic. And so for me, I think God had a plan. So for whatever people believe in, that there was a different plan or a reason for why I was moving. And that was, I met the love of my life in Kansas. And so, when that happened, I was like, okay. So I have, not only this great job that I get to, develop, but the real reason was, as some people know, I met Dr. Ellen Lowry. And, you know, um, we've been together ever since, and it is just amazing. Moving to Topeka, Kansas, and being gay was not the easiest thing.
Culture shock a little bit there.
Yeah, yep. And Topeka especially was not, the people were very welcoming, but the culture that I think all the people in Kansas were up against, was tough. We had Westboro Baptist Church, who at the time was very active um, in promoting hate, and but you know, it was absolutely the right thing for me to do. Um, I hope that I was able to show some people in the profession, if they were scared or not comfortable being their authentic self, that I was able to do that in a difficult place. And so I just hope that I was able to help others by being so open. I see now why I was leaving, the great state of Maine. So to
Mm.
promote nutrition, and most importantly to find the one person in life that I was meant to be with.
Yeah. And I know she has been instrumental in encouraging you and helping you along life in general, but also with your career.
Yes.
Um, was and I don't remember what was kind of the shift with leaving Hills for the next stage of your career.
Yeah. When I was with Hills, I was able to go around and truly talk nutrition. And Hills supported me in talking nutrition, and it wasn't Hills nutrition. They wanted to get nutrition out to nutrition as itself, not like, oh, you have to feed this or that. They didn't put that kind of limitation on me, so I was able to go out and talk about my favorite topic, and also about technician utilization and proper utilization, and of team members, and communication, which again I can bring my first career, and help with leadership and communication, and topics such as that, personal and professional development. And so while I was doing that, I started you know doing a lot of other things in addition to working for Hills. And I had so many consulting opportunities to further get nutrition out there, and to further help technicians, that I thought the time was right to leave Hills and to become a independent nutrition well-being consultant, and truly focus on um, promoting nutrition to my colleagues, the veterinary nurse, veterinary technician profession, as well as, hopefully, I have had some veterinarians as well that I've worked with. So, hopefully the veterinary profession as a whole, and also then I could even get deeper into helping technicians. So I was able then to run for NAVTA president, and be on other association boards, etc., to truly bring our profession together from a we're a team standpoint, right? You know, so many, especially clients and the public, know veterinarians, right? Or know the role of veterinarian, um, but they don't all know the role of the other team members. And so I was hoping to help build that, but more so I was hoping to help build um, the the trust, the resilience, I wanted my fellow colleagues to grow and show that they themselves could be, well, they are professionals, and be respected. And so you know, that's a lot of what I do now. I've tried to use, I hate to talk like I'm, something. But, having been now to president, being the editor in chief of today's veterinary nurse gives me a platform to really try to elevate my colleagues around the country because of, we are a team, veterinarians, vet techs, vet assistants, practice managers, front desk team, we're all in this together. And so I'm trying to support them and raise them up to see that we are part of the team, if that makes sense. I know I'm a big cornball and just but that is, what I've been trying to do. And I've been, like I said, I've had some great opportunities that I've been able to give back and to try to elevate the rest of my colleagues.
No, I think that's so important. You have found what, speaking of corny, what makes your heart sing, right?
Yeah,
And that is what your
yeah,
focus is, your dedication to uplifting the whole veterinary team. And I think when you find that you can do things you never thought you could have done. And if I recall, um, you do a lot of public speaking now, but I don't think that was completely natural if I remember your talk. So do you mind sharing a little bit about,
no.
overcoming some of those fears that are extremely common?
Yes, yeah, I know. The fear of public speaking, that one always just amazes me because people would rather die
Yes.
than speak publicly. And it's like, do you know really what you're saying? Because there's studies that show that. So and I have to admit, I was one of those people. I hated public speaking, would do anything to get out of it. Until my second master's program, when I was giving a horrible presentation. Oh, I just think back and I'm like, oh God, those poor people had to just sit and listen. And and I made a joke. And everyone laughed. And I was like, okay, maybe this is what I have to do to make myself feel more comfortable. And so what I've found is, humor is healing, right? As long as you do it properly.
Tastefully.
Yes, tastefully. So what I've tried to do is, some of it is self-deprecating. I absolutely can look at myself and and laugh. Um, but I do that to show others that, we've all started in the same place and we can get to wherever we want to with, support and with passion. And so, yeah, I was giving a talk on schizophrenia. I remember it was, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And so it took me a long time, but that I remember that second. I remember the room because of I'm like, they're going to throw something at me. I mean, they were all very respectful, but I was that bad. And, I made one little joke and it lightened the room, it lightened me. And I realized, okay, I need to look at it this way and, get comfortable presenting in a way that's comfortable for me, right? I'm not going to stand, at a podium with my hands by my side, like all the professional speaking, classes tell you. I have to engage with the audience to make sure they're getting what I'm talking about and to make sure that they're having fun. When I talk about nutrition, I always tease the audience because, you know, nutrition may not be the most exciting of all the specialties in other people's view, not in
I
ours,
was gonna say, what are you
obviously.
talking
Yeah.
about?
They love ECC because there's pictures and videos of blood spurting, right? And all this, stuff that happens in surgery. Oh, look, they're cutting open this. And when I present, I have a picture of, a dog or a cat bowl or an amino acid. So you have to make it fun and interesting, and bring them to where your passion is at. And so for me, knowing that certain nutrients can help manage disease conditions, or help, well patients to live even better, that's what I get all excited about. And I think that's what um, people who listen to, my talks, um, see that passion, right? Because I get so excited. I talk about omega-3 fatty acids, and you think I was, fangirling some big star or something, right? And it's like they see that, and even if they're not as excited about a nutrient, they see the importance. So that's I have come a long way. To the point now you can't shut me up when I'm, on stage. It's like, oh no, come on, your time's up.
So I mean, you speak, you write. Were there things you did to kind of grow yourself in some of these skills, or was it just practice just doing it? What are your recommendations for kind of learning these additional skills?
Yeah, for speaking, you really do have to practice. And as corny and as hard as it is to tape yourself and watch yourself,
Oh yeah.
you learn a lot. I've had people in the audience counting how many times I say or or some word that I might say more than someone else. See, here we go. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can most certainly take presentation classes. You can take writing classes. Uh, I I always I always wanted to author and write about things I'm passionate about. So I so that came more natural for me than public speaking. That, I obviously had to work on quite a bit, but I think the most important thing that I learned is to be myself. Don't
Mm.
try to be everything. There are tons of pearls that you can get from speaking classes and, public speaking forums, etc. Those are all extremely important, but at the end of the day, you have to be yourself. Because if I stood up there, with my hands by my side, and I wasn't, walking around engaging, I think people would fall asleep. so so get those pearls, find those pearls, and apply them to your own style.
Yeah. People can tell your energy, whether it's on stage or even in the written word. I think people can tell when you're excited about something. So that is really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and I've always tried to encourage, find your passion. Once you find that passion, then there's no holding you back. And if I can do it, if I, obviously I'm passionate about nutrition. And if I can, come from a town in Massachusetts and, live in Maine and then come to a more, uh, and I don't mean this to sound egotistical by any means, but to have a more national platform, then anyone can do it. If I went from being the worst speaker you could ever imagine to, you know, having fun and showing my passion, then truly anyone can do it. I always am encouraging my colleagues to write and to author articles, and we will help. TVN will help. I know the NAFTA Journal will help, and I'm sure that any of the publications that are out there want to help grow veterinarians and veterinary technicians. I mean, I'll focus on the veterinary technicians, veterinary nurses, but um, because for me, we're all in this together, and people don't want to hear me or read my writing, forever. I want to grow and help grow my colleagues and find their passion and have them speak or, or write. Because as you said, you can see that in the written word.
Yeah. And another way that you've done that is to help our colleagues is to start a specialty, a
Mhm.
technician specialty. So do you mind telling us a little bit about that, the story of creating the nutrition VTS?
Yeah. Uh, I'm obviously I'm very proud of that. I saw technician specialties starting to be recognized, and I'm like, why isn't there a nutrition one? And so, I thought about it, and Harold Davis, he actually started the vet tech specialties. And he started emergency and critical care, which was the first one. And he kept following up with me saying, all right, hey, what's going on here? You can do it. And so in 2005, I think it was, I met with the AAVN, the American Academy of Veterinary Nutrition, and what was then the American College of Veterinary Nutrition, and, you know, ran it by them. And everyone was like, yeah, that sounds great. We support you, so go do it. Right? Because I didn't know what to ask after that. I'm like, I just need your support. And so I found a couple of colleagues with the same passion, Ann Wardinger and Vicki O'Grain, Charlotte Higgins. And so we, I we petitioned. We had to form our organizing committee first, and get all of our ducks in a row. And forming a vet tech specialty is a great deal of work. So I was working with the AAVN, like I said, working with NAFTA's CVTS, and trying to make sure all of our ducks were in a row. And in 2010, we submitted our petition, and in August of 2010, we were recognized as the 10th specialty, which for me was just huge. So it was pretty incredible. Um, to this day, at that point and to this day, the AAVN and the ACVN have been, well, I know it's the ACVIM nutrition now, but everyone has been so supportive and helpful, and to the point where we have a liaison on the AAVN board. I've kind of called myself the liaison to the ACVN board, or until we have something more formal. But and it's allowed me to become the president of the Pet Nutrition Alliance. Here I am, a veterinary technician specialist in nutrition. I'm not a veterinarian, I'm not a diplomate in nutrition, but I'm the current president of the Pet Nutrition Alliance, and on the board of the AAVN. So huge things for me and for my colleagues have really happened since our recognition. We sat our first exam in 2013. So that's when we all became VTS Nutrition. Um, and we just keep growing. We've had, we've lost some along the way because they've changed fields or whatever, or changed, specialties within veterinary medicine. But we have, I believe, 25, and we're sitting three more this year, and then we have quite a few applicants for next year, and then a number that have submitted their intent for the following years. So each year, we grow, and it's something I am extremely proud of. So thank you for asking. And we're international, so not only in the U.S., but we have two in Australia, two VTSs in England, and oh, I forgot the number, four plus in Canada.
Oh,
And yeah, and then the remainder in the US. But everyone is active, trying to to wave that nutrition flag for our colleagues, and just really get the profession, no matter the country they're in, um, to recognize nutrition and the importance of it for our veterinary patients.
Yeah. I definitely will after this get all the information for that group and everything. We'll put that in the description so people can reach out if they're interested or have questions. I want to make sure people can get in touch with that if they do have interest.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what is something you're most excited about right now? We've talked about all your accomplishments, all the things you're doing. What are you most excited for next?
Oh, that is a great question. Retirement? No, no, I'm not there yet. Um, we are up for the Academy of Veterinary Nutrition Technicians is up for our full recognition after 10 years. And so we have applied for that. So hopefully that will come through. And, I just plan on continuing to do what I have been doing, probably at a higher level. I am now the director of veterinary nursing for Wellhaven Pet Health. And truly, my role there is to um, give my colleagues the tools to be better utilized. So we started a nutritional counselor program, shocker, um, and we're just working on a number of different things, making sure they feel um, as though they have the tools and the knowledge necessary to have their own nurse consults and to be properly utilized. And I think that's important, for all of my colleagues throughout the country. Um, Nationally, we've been looking, NAFTA and some of our industry partners have been looking at increased vet technician utilization, and it has to happen. So for all of us, for veterinary technicians, for the veterinary team, especially after the past 2 years that we've had and how incredibly busy all of our colleagues have been across across the world. um, we need to now more than ever work more closely as a team and to properly utilize the credentialed veterinary technicians skills and knowledge. And you know the more we do that, I think the less pressure on the team as a whole. And that has, we've seen the pressure the past 2 years. I also want to help uh, work with clients, especially again during the pandemic. We've seen our colleagues across the country being beat up more than they should be. And that comes from clients being anxious and scared. And so helping my colleagues to, how to deal with that and how to work through that. Again, drawing, I can draw on my knowledge from when I was a psychologist and help them um, to deal with that, because it's intense and it's painful and it's hurtful. But I truly believe the majority of the clients out there, um, it's not, it shouldn't be acceptable, but I believe it's because of the anxiety and the stress and the fear of the unknown.
Mhm.
Um, and so for those patients, those clients, I would like to work with my colleagues to help bridge that communication gap. May not even be a gap, just how do I deal with that kind of um, flack that we're getting. And again, both sides want what's in the best interest of their pet. And so, how do we make that, how do we get them both to see that that's what the end goal is? It's
Yeah.
not, this person doesn't like that person. It's deeper than that, in that it's more emotions, and how do we work through those?
Yeah, people are emotions.
Yes,
They're
yes,
emotional beings, and I
yes.
love the idea of finding the common ground.
Yeah.
And when you talk about everything is a team effort,
Hmm.
it's teamwork. I think that also understanding that our clients, our pet owners, are also part of that team, and when
Yes.
we utilize them that way, I think, at least hopefully,
Yeah.
you know, everybody sees that end goal, the common ground, and we can
Yeah.
work better together.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely.
So, kind of as we're closing our time here, what is one thing that you want to tell our colleagues right now?
Oh,
Advice, anything on your heart there?
um, yeah, thank you for that. I want I want um everyone in the profession to know that they can have their dream career. It will take work, it will take some effort. No matter where you are right now, change can happen. Um, we have to be courageous enough. um, and I, there were a couple of times when I was courageous, moving from um, psych to being a vet assistant and then in veterinary medicine, and then moving from the place I love to somewhere unknown, and then you know again having that security of having a full-time job with benefits to going to be an independent consultant. But if you have support in your life and you know truly what you want to do and you have that passion, we can figure it out. I'm happy to help and to talk to anyone, but we have to have that attitude for change and be courageous to make that change. And I don't want people to think that, oh yeah, you can talk about that, because of whatever. I was in the same boat as everyone else. I knew that things had to change at different points in my life for different reasons. And so if I can do it, um, anyone can do it. I will say it's not easy, and it's not, it will take longer for some, shorter for some, but if that's truly what you want, um, everyone should go for it. Don't try not to focus on the what ifs and have any regrets. If you feel like you want to do something and you'll regret it if you don't, try. Talk to someone about it. Find someone to help you. And for those of us who've been around for a while, give back, help mentor, uh, our up and coming, our colleagues that are just getting into the field or maybe have been in the field and are thinking about something different. I don't think people within veterinary medicine realize all the opportunities that are out there. I mean, you've heard just a few of them from me, but even within an industry partner such as Hills veterinary medicine, so vet techs, veterinarians, there's roles there. I mean, there's so many things that we can do if and again, here's my cornball again, but if you can imagine it, you can do it. I imagined, wow, wouldn't that be cool to be like a vet tech that talks about nutrition to all my colleagues. And I did it. I'm not the only one. And so that's pretty awesome to be out there with your colleagues and to bring others along with you. So please, if you want to do something, do it.
Uh, we could totally end right there, but I do like to do kind of some rapid fire ending questions just to kind of end
Okay.
on fun. What is something on your bucket list?
To go to Ireland. My grandparents came from Ireland, and I grew up in the town of Bourne in Massachusetts, which is right on the Cape Cod Canal. And my grandfather actually helped dig the canal with a shovel. And if you see it now, you're like, whoa, so I would, that is probably the biggest thing on my bucket list, is to go to Ireland.
I hope to go there one day as well. I have some Irish in me as well.
Yes.
So, what is a simple moment that brings you joy?
Sitting on our back patio with Ellen, and our house butts up to a river, or and to hear the birds and the wildlife, and to have our dogs out there running around, that's like a Zen moment for me, as long as it's not too hot out.
Right. And it gets hot in the Midwest.
Yes, it does.
Final question is, what is one thing that you are grateful for?
That's going to have to be Ellen, obviously. She has been able to encourage and support and push in ways that I never for me to do things that I never thought that I could do. And so again, it may sound corny, but truly, once you find that person, and I hope everyone does find their person, it makes all the difference in the world. Things that I never thought that I could do, she has encouraged me to do. She supported me. She's been there. So yeah, so I would have, yeah, it's going to have to be that.
I think that's perfect. At the end of the day, I said earlier, once you're in the veterinary field, it never fully leaves you.
Right.
But we ultimately are holistic human beings where, yes, we have passions in the veterinary industry that becomes a big part of what we do, but it's about the people in our lives, the people that we love, that is really what makes the world go round. It makes
exactly
life worth getting up for. So
exactly. Yeah.